Hi guys, welcome to Lunch Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. Today we're going to be making Githeri cauliflower rice. Yes, Githeri cauliflower rice, that's what we're going to be making. So it's just your regular Githeri, which is beans and maize if you're not from Kenya. So I'm putting a spin on it and I'm going to be making some cauliflower rice. And the cauliflower is just grated. Instead of having regular rice, we're using cauliflower. So this is a very nice, light, healthy, light lunch. It's very low on the carbs as well because we're not using like actual rice. We're using cauliflower, which is a vegetable, so it's less dense. So to get started with the ingredients, we're going to be having some, of course, it wouldn't be Githeri without beans and maize, and some capsicums, as well as some ginger and garlic. They'll mainly probably just use the garlic. And then we're going to have some carrots and then some freshness, of course, zest. I have to add a bit of lemon, some salt and pepper, and some onion, tomatoes, avocado, and of course the star of the dish, cauliflower. Yes, so that's what we're going to be using, and of course some herbs. So to get started, we're going to grate the cauliflower and put it in the microwave. So this is a very simple dish that we're going to do, very few chopping, not so much preparation to do. So we're going to go on a short break. When we come back, we'll get right started. So see you after the break. Hi guys, welcome back to Lunch Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. If you're just tuning in, today we're going to be making Githeri cauliflower rice, and it's a very simple dish. I'm just taking your regular Githeri that we're used to here in Kenya, which is mainly just beans and maize combined together with whatever else you want to add into it. So I'm putting a new spin on it, making it light, fresh. And so to get started, we're going to start with our cauliflower. So the cauliflower is part of the star of the dish, as well as the Githeri, the beans and the maize, of course. And I'm going to just grate this. Now all I've done here is gotten one large cauliflower and I've washed it. So I'm just going to go ahead and grate it. Now if you had like a mini chopper, or you could use your blender as well, but if you have a mini chopper, this will actually work in very well. All you'll have to do is just cut out the florets. Now the florets are usually just the flowers of the cauliflower once you cut them out. And so to do that, all you'd have to do is just, there you go. And so once you have this, you'll just grate it. Then you just grate. But if you're using, like I've mentioned, a food processor or like a mini chopper, you'll then chop this into small bits. Now what you call the floret, once it comes out from the whole cauliflower, the head of the cauliflower that is. So you'd chop this into small little bits, and then now you'll just put it in your blender, food processor, mini chopper, and then just whiz that up. So it will be very fast and easy for you. But I'm doing this in the simplest way, whereby you might not have one, so you can use a grater. So we're just going to use our hands and just get grating. So it's a lot of grating, of course. I should probably get a plate for this so that it doesn't spread all around. So when I say cauliflower rice, so this just gives the illusion of rice, though technically it's not really rice. So I'm just going to get a bowl so that it's easy for me to do the grating in. Okay, so we're going to place our cauliflower rice inside the bowl. So for the cauliflower, if you have a look here, it's just it becomes nice and fine, and I'm using the large chunk of the grater. You could use the fine one if you wanted to, but I like a bit of texture, so I like to use the larger side. So if you have a closer look, you'll notice that the grains are nice and small, and they kind of take on the texture of rice. So that's basically where it gets the name cauliflower rice. So technically it's not really rice, but you get my point. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grate the remaining cauliflower head. So to make it easier, when you're grating with your hands, I just like to get the whole of it and then just go round, 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 because I just find that easier for me. And all I'm grating is just the flower itself, which is the florets basically. So the little tiny flowers of the head of the cauliflower is what I'm grating. So I'm not going to grate all the way to the stem. So just the florets, that's all you're grating. So go ahead and then just continue grating this all the way through. So it might take you some time. You could actually do this like in advance and then just put this in the fridge. Now, like I've mentioned, this is a very nice light dish to work with, because for one, it's very light on the carbs. So if you're trying to lose weight or watch your weight or just eat healthier in general, this is a good alternative to dense carbs. It's also a great lunch meal because you're not going to be feeling very stuffed and full during your lunchtime, during your lunch break. And of course, you're going to have energy to come back and continue working once you're done with your light lunch. So this is just my take with the cauliflower. Of course, you could get your cauliflower here and just steam it if you wanted to. There's a lot else you could do with it. You could steam it. You could make a stew out of it, make like a cauliflower stew, an Indian kind of stew as well. Make some bhajias out of this. Indians do this thing where they make bhajia out of cauliflower. It tastes amazing. So that's something you could actually try out. But like I've said, we're keeping it light, and others go actually the extra mile of eating this raw. I'm not a huge fan of raw cauliflower, but if that's your thing, then actually you can just have it raw as it is. You don't have to put it in the microwave, which is what I'm going to do in a little bit. So if you don't mind the taste, then you could definitely eat this as it is by itself. And so once you're done, this is what you get. So it literally looks like rice. If you didn't know and you're from far, then you'll think it's rice, but upon closer look, you'll notice nah, that's not rice. What kind of rice is that? Okay, so it's kind of like rice, couscous, somewhere there. And then, like I mentioned, I washed my cauliflower as well as drained it. That's why it was in the colander here. So all that was doing was just making sure that any water was in there is out, because I don't want my cauliflower to be soggy. I just want it to have like its own natural moisture, but I don't want it soggy. So I'm just going to have a look here and see what else I can get out of this. Like I said, I'm trying to mainly just use the floret bits. I'm not going to use the stems. So for this, you could use this for stock. Now, if you don't need the rest of it, because for me, I don't need the rest of it. So you could use it for stock, which is like a vegetable stock here. You could make some of that. Okay, so that's looking pretty good to me. I'm just having a look to see whether there's anywhere else I can scrape off so that I don't waste too much. Okay, so when that's done, so what you leave behind is, like I've mentioned, just the stems, because I don't need those. Yeah, so because I don't need any of those. And all you get here is now the nice, beautiful rice. Like I said, what we're calling rice, okay? So place this aside. And then I'm just going to collect all this and put it in the microwave. So we're going to heat this up for about a minute or 2 minutes. Now the whole idea of that is just to cook your cauliflower a little bit. Like I said, others like to eat their cauliflower raw. I'm not a huge fan of raw cauliflower, not too keen on the taste of raw cauliflower, so I like to steam mine. If you don't like to, then you don't have to do it. You can just skip that process and go ahead and add everything else in here. So like I said, if you're just tuning in, today we're making Githeri cauliflower rice, and this is just my take of our regular Githeri, which is maize and beans if you're not from Kenya. So I'm just putting a spin on that and using cauliflower. Instead of making the cauliflower like into a stew, I'm going to make it into rice. So I'm just doing a bit of clearance. Okay. And for the board, I always mention I like to put a sponge just to give your board some nice stability, so that it doesn't move around when you need to chop anything. It's just going to be nice and stable. So I like to do that a lot of the times. So I'm going to grab here now my cling film because I'm going to cover this and put it in the microwave. So for this, we're going to season it a little bit. And what I like to add is a bit of oil, some olive oil. Not too much because again, I might need to season it afterwards. And then a bit of salt, some black pepper. Now, you know I love black pepper, so it always goes in a lot of things that I make. So add a bit of black pepper. So this is a good alternative, like I've said, if you're trying to eat something on the less dense side of heavy carbohydrates, because this is still considered starch, though it's a vegetable, but it's just lighter. It's not as dense as a regular carbohydrate that would be from a cereal or something like that. And then we're going to also add some garlic. Now that's because I like garlic, but if you don't like garlic, you don't have to add it. So all I've added in there is just some salt, some pepper, some olive oil, and I'm going to add some garlic. Just one is enough. Now just use your hand or use the knife to get the skin off. Nice and easy. And then we're going to chop this. Now again, this is a very nice light dish. And if you don't like garlic, you don't have to use the garlic. But of course, I love my garlic and I feel like it adds more flavor and character to your food. So if you want to go more than this, you can definitely do that. If you want to use less, then just use less. So I just want to chop this a little bit finer. Then I'm also going to add some herbs to my cauliflower. Again, just because I want to give it texture, because cauliflower tends to be very blunt. If you've never had cauliflower before, it is a little bit blunt. So it doesn't have much of a taste by itself. So it kind of takes on whatever you add into it. So I'm going to add some parsley. You could add dhania as well if you wanted, which is cilantro, coriander. You could add that if you wanted, but I'm just going to add parsley. You could also add something like basil leaves. That's something that will also work really well in this dish. So that, just give this a chop, and then we're going to mix in everything that we've added. Remember, we've only added some olive oil, salt, black pepper, garlic, and of course now the herbs that I'm putting in. You could add whatever else you wanted to put in this. If you wanted to put some chili, go ahead and do that. Just make it your own. So I'm just going to mix it. And the herbs will just give it a nice tint of green here and there. You're going to see it, of course. And then I'm going to give this a taste, because that's what it's going to taste like when you finish steaming it. So if you're going to eat this raw, like I said, people do eat cauliflower raw. I'm not one of those people. I have to draw a line somewhere with the things that I can eat raw and those that I can't eat raw. This is like one of them. But I'm going to give it a taste anyway. A bit of black pepper for me. Just because, as you know, I love black pepper. Okay, so that's good enough. Okay, so give that another mix. And then now just cover this. So we're going to steam this in the microwave. And the reason, like I've said, for seasoning, you don't have to season your cauliflower if you don't want to, but I would highly suggest you do, just to give it again flavor, because cauliflower is a bit blunt and it takes on whatever flavor you add into it. Something else you could add actually is something like masala spices, so like Indian spices like curry powder. You could add that, garam masala, or just any store-bought masala spice that says masala that's mixed, or also tandoori. So things like that will work really, really well for this. I wouldn't suggest tea masala though. Okay, so that's good enough. So what this is going to do is going to allow for the steam in the microwave to kind of like build this up, and you're going to notice that because the cling film is going to be pushed up by the steam that's trying to escape. And then once it's done, we're going to poke a hole and the steam will lose itself. It will be free. So let's put this in the microwave. So for the microwave, like I've said, you can put this for about a minute or 2 minutes. So I'll start off with 2 minutes and then have a look at it. So just start. There you go. So that's our 2 minutes. Then I'm just going to clean up. Yeah, everything is set. So what that's going to do, like I've said, is going to steam up the cauliflower a little bit. So that's just going to cook it just a bit, but it's still going to have the texture and the bite, just because I'm not very fond of raw cauliflower. Okay, so for this, we're going to go ahead and chop our vegetables. And the vegetables I'm using in here are actually going to be tomatoes, some onions, some carrots, some peppers. You don't have to use everything, but I have them available, so that's what I'm going to be using. You could just use tomatoes and onions, like a regular salsa, kachumbari sort of thing. Kachumbari is what we call, it's like a tomato salsa. It's what we Kenyans call it, which is just usually a mixture of tomatoes and onions. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and add other vegetables just because I have them available. So this is one of those things you could make with the simplest of things that you have available with you. So I'm just going to chop my onion a little bit fine. I don't use too much onion. I don't want everything tasting of onions. Even though I don't mind the taste. So again, this is also actually a vegetarian dish. It also qualifies as a vegan dish. Now, if you're not familiar with the word vegan, vegan is just basically someone who does not eat any meat or any meat products, animal products basically. Whereas a vegetarian tends to eat animal products, so they don't eat the meat itself. And I want to have a look into the microwave. Yeah, so that's still going on. There we go. So you'll notice, like I was saying, the steam builds up. So you'll just get this out and you can see this. So usually all you have to do is just pop it. So I'm going to give this a shake and I'm going to give it another 1 minute. Yeah, I feel like I want to give it another 1 minute, so I'm going to do that. And so like I was saying earlier, what the cauliflower does, that's why you see the steam in there. It's a steam that's trying to evaporate because I've sealed off any edges where it could get lost. So all that steam is going to actually help cook your cauliflower. So I'm just finishing chopping my onion here. And then we're going to add some tomatoes, like I've mentioned. And this is a very simple dish, I keep saying, because it doesn't require much. All you have to do is just the chopping and of course the cauliflower, and you're pretty much good to go. So we're going to get our bowl and then add now your veggies, which is the onions that I've just chopped. Then I'm going to get some tomatoes and use those as well. And then for this, you'll probably have to boil your githeri in advance, which is the maize and the beans. Of course, you have to boil those in advance. So let's have a look here. Yes, so this is going to be good enough for me. So I'm just going to give this a shake. And be careful, if your bowl is hot, then you want to use a cloth. My bowl is not that hot. You can still hold it. Then all you have to do is just pierce and the steam evaporates. So then from there you can have a taste. You see all this steam. So we're going to give this a taste. Remember, I did say the reason I seasoned is because whatever you add into this, it's going to take on the flavor. And I said I didn't want to cook this, and the reason again that I didn't add any extra water or moisture is because the cauliflower was going to cook with its own natural juices. And as you can see, it's nice and fluffy and light, and this is what you're looking for. So give that a taste. Okay, mentioned I seasoned everything earlier. So as it is, I don't feel like it's lacking anything. So I'll leave it as it is. And this is very nice and light and fresh, and still has a bit of the crunch. Like I said, I did want to retain some of the crunch. I didn't want to get rid of everything. So we're going to go ahead and slice our tomatoes. And for our tomatoes, I'm just going to remove the center, the pits, the flesh. because I don't need them in this. I don't want all the juices kind of making my cauliflower rice soggy. But if you don't mind that, then you can definitely just retain them. So all I'm doing is just removing the flesh, the inner flesh, so that I can then chop my tomatoes. And all this does is, especially if you're making like a salad, this is actually a good tip. If you're making, like I said, our kachumbari, which is usually made of tomatoes, onions, and dania lemon juice. This is a good tip if you want it to sit out for long. Then if you remove all the juices and then chop it up, it's able to sit out for longer. As well as if maybe you are chopping your tomatoes the night before, if you took out the flesh, then they'll be able to stay in the fridge a little bit longer, because the flesh is not going to be getting them to get spoiled quickly. So that's good enough. So I'm just going to give this, of course, a chop. And you could chop this again whichever style you want to, but because my cauliflower is tiny, I mean like it's tiny like the size, so I'm going to be doing this into a chop. The tomatoes, I'm going to be chopping the tomatoes as well. But if you wanted to leave these long slices, you could definitely do that. Okay, so I'm done here, so I'm going to place this aside. Just get the eye out. I usually don't need to use that. And then just place the flesh. Now this you could definitely use in whatever else you're cooking. You don't have to discard it. Again, I've mentioned I'm only removing the flesh because I don't want it in my salad and I don't want it making my cauliflower soggy or wet. I kind of want to still retain the texture. I don't want it to go all mush. I want it to still have a bite. And I know by leaving the juices there, it's not going to have the full bite that I want it to have. So we're just going to give this a chop. So what I'm cutting it here is into nice little chops, which we'll call a brunoise cut. So a brunoise is just a chef term of like a small cut, like very small chopped items, which are usually vegetables. So very small chopped items is what we have here. And of course I'm going to be adding the other vegetables. I did mention you could just leave it as it is. And most of the work that's in this cauliflower rice, like I'm calling it, it's just the chopping that you're going to do with the vegetables you're going to be adding. There's not much cooking because the only cooking we've done is just the cauliflower. And of course I did mention you have to be sure that you've boiled your beans and maize, because if you haven't, then that's going to take a little bit of a while. But I feel like most households, like we always have like beans and maize like stored in the freezer. Or is it just me? I mean, I know like for sure for me, like whenever I make something like a bean stew or githeri by itself, I'll make like a lot of the beans, I'll boil them in advance and then I'll just store them in the freezer, because I don't want to have that hassle the next time like I crave githeri or beans, that I have to think about that whole process of getting the beans, soaking them, and then boiling them, because then I'll get tired of making the dish and I'll just move on. I'll be like, maybe today I won't eat that. So I just like to have some stored. So you should probably do that as well. The next time you're boiling some maize or some beans, don't just boil enough for that particular meal you're making. I would suggest you boil a little bit extra so that you can store it in the freezer. So we're almost done chopping our tomatoes. Like I said, I'm just giving this a nice chop just because I want to keep everything kind of like in a small size. Okay, and then we're going to mix this in. And if you're just tuning in, today we are actually making Githeri cauliflower rice. Don't let the name scare you, it's nothing too complicated. It's just your regular cauliflower that you'll get in the market, as well as Githeri, which is comprised of beans and maize. And to that, I'm just giving that a twist. So I'm not going to be, of course, cooking the githeri and beans together. It's going to be more of kind of like a salad of some sort. So I've just added now my tomatoes. You can give this a nice mix. Okay, and then now add your other capsicums and whatever other vegetables you have. So like I said, most of the things we're doing here is a lot of chopping. So if you're not into chopping, then maybe don't use as many vegetables as I'm planning to use. Use a bit less. But if you don't mind the chopping, then go right ahead. So something else actually you could add to this to make it sweet, you could actually add mangoes if you wanted. So that will be a nice mango salsa. You could also add pineapple to this if you wanted. Again, I always say cooking is about the things you like, the flavors you like, because the more you add something you like, the more likely you are to eat it. So what I've done here is just chopped some sweet capsicums. Now I love using capsicums because they're very nice, light and fresh. And I love it when my food tastes fresh, because again, you're more likely to eat it. And the capsicums, I love mixing my capsicums just because they give the natural sweetness from the sweet ones and a bit of the peppery from the green one. So I just like to go right in and mix all my capsicums in there. And I've also mentioned something you could add is fruits. You could also add apples if you wanted to this. So apples, mangoes, pineapples would be a good addition to this if you're trying to add some fruits or incorporate some fruits with your salad. It would be a good option. So I'm just trying to mix this in so that I can add them into my tomatoes and onions. So just give that a mix as well. And already it's looking very colorful. Like I always say, I do like to make my foods colorful and bright because I just feel like we eat with our eyes, which of course most of the times we do. So I'm going to take some of this mixture and actually set some aside. This is just in case I need this later on for like garnishing or just serving it on the side. I don't want to mix everything all at once. I just like to save something just in case I need it. Okay, so we're just going to place this aside just in case we need it. We might not need it, but I like to be prepared, you never know. So this is actually it for most of the ingredients we're using. Of course, the vegetables I've mentioned, capsicums, tomatoes, onions. So we're going to go ahead here and add our maize. Now my maize, I've already boiled them so they're nice and soft. And if you're just tuning in, we're making our Githeri cauliflower rice. I did mention if you're making githeri or beans or the likes or any grains, lentils, always boil more than you need so that you can store it in the freezer because it stores well in the freezer. That way when you're making your next meal, you can just defrost them. You don't have to go through the whole hassle of getting them, boiling them from scratch because then it takes a lot of time. You may not feel inspired to make the dish when you think of all the time you have to wait for the maize and beans to actually boil. So we're mixing this together. Again, already the colors are looking so vibrant, so colorful. I really love cooking with color because I just feel like I fall in love with the foods even more. And already as this is, I feel like, oh, I just want to take a huge bite. I feel inspired to just want to eat it already. So again, we're going to add some salt and some black pepper. Because nothing here is seasoned, so that's why we're going to be adding this, and then we're going to be adding some black pepper. So a good amount of black pepper. You could also add some paprika into this, you could add some chili into this, but I'm not going to add that. And then we're going to give this a mix, and I'm going to squeeze some lemon juice into this as well. Oh, I just noticed I had a carrot. I almost forgot to add the carrot in there. So let's actually slice that. So I did say earlier you don't have to use all the vegetables I'm using. I'm just using them because I have them available. But you could definitely just use whatever you have or whatever works for you. So I'm going to go ahead and just slice my carrots, and then we're going to chop them. So again, I'm trying to retain the same consistency. I said I'm doing a brunoise cut, which is just a fancy way of us chefs saying it's like a small chopped cut. So you're just chopping things a little bit finer than you would. So just give this another chop. Again, the carrots here are going to add some sweetness to your dish. So if you don't want the sweetness in there, then you don't have to use the carrots. You can just not use them. So of course I have now the sweetness from the capsicums, the colored capsicums, a bit of pepperiness from the green one, and more sweetness from the carrots, and the earthy flavor from my maize and my beans. So you know you're going to be tasting all sorts of things in this dish. So this by itself, you could eat this by itself for lunch. You could take it with you for lunch and just eat it by itself. You don't have to add anything else if you don't want to. It's very colorful. We're going to add some lemon juice. And the lemon juice is just going to give it a nice fresh taste, because we want to make sure that your food is always fresh and vibrant, because the more it is, the more you're likely to dig in. So I'm just adding a bit of some lemon juice, and I'm using my hands here as a sieve. If you have a sieve, then go ahead and just use the sieve. You don't have to do what I'm doing. But if you don't have one, this is a good tip to use your hands as the sieve, because they capture all the seeds, and then all you have to do is just dispose of them. Okay, so we're just going to place our seeds in the bin and then mix this. I'm going to also add a bit of some olive oil just to give it a nice gloss, a nice finishing. So a bit of olive oil, and then we're also going to, let me just wet my hands because they're a bit wet from squeezing all the lemon. So I'm going to give this a taste. And it's so colorful. Like I said, when your food is colorful and bright, you just want to dig in. I'm trying to see what else I need to add into this. I think some salt. Now I did say you could add some spices if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it really, really simple. Okay, so that's it, guys. This is our Githeri cauliflower rice. So I'm just mixing in the Githeri and my vegetables. Then I'm going to get my cauliflower and mix it in here. It's had some time to cool. I didn't want it all cooked, so I'm just going to throw it in here. Now I said you could have your salad as it was by itself. Okay, and then we're going to give this a nice mix. And something else you could use, if you don't want to use the cauliflower, of course you can use regular rice. You could also use couscous. Couscous is actually a wheat, so you could use that instead. So it's kind of like in the family of pastas, but it's only a very, very small, tiny grain that kind of looks like the size of the cauliflower. The cauliflower that I've actually now shredded, of course. So that is looking very colorful, I must say. I'm like, oh, so proud. So yeah, guys, that's it. That's our meal for today. That's our Githeri cauliflower rice. So I'm going to clean up a little bit when you guys go for break, and then we're going to come back and slice avocado and then present our food, because it was very simple to make. So see you after the break. Hi guys, welcome back to Lunch Guide. I'm your host and chef, Sheena Amario. If you're just tuning in today, we're making Githeri cauliflower rice. Now, as the name suggests, it is Githeri, which is a mixture of maize and beans, but it wasn't cooked in a stew or anything like that. And there is cauliflower, so I mixed all those things together, and this is what you get. So I steamed the cauliflower a little bit in the microwave for about a minute or two. It will depend with your microwave and the watts. And then I also added now my Githeri. If you look really closely, you'll see there's some maize in here as well as some beans. So that's what the whole mixture is all about. And then I added my own vegetables that I had with me, which was some onions, some capsicum, some tomatoes, some carrots. You don't have to add everything that I added, but that's what I added just give it some nice color, because if you look at it, it's so nice and colorful. And if you didn't know any better, you'll be mistaken into thinking that this is actually rice, which it isn't. So that's just a nice way of using the vegetables you have at hand, just trying to get to eat them some more. So I'm going to go ahead and get my avocado here that I have washed and just slice it. I'm just adding some avocado again just to give my food a bit of a different texture. Now this is a vegetarian meal, so it's a good alternative. If you have friends out there who are vegetarian or vegan, this is a good alternative for them. And this is a nice avocado. As you saw how I sliced that, all you have to do is just take your knife, run it all the way through and turn the avocado as you go, like I did. And then once you open, hopefully it should look like that. Ta-da! Oh, I get so proud when you get an avocado that looks as pretty as this one does. You just want to bite it, just give it a nice bite. Like, let's just look so pretty. Okay, so to remove the skin, what I like to do is use a spoon because it makes it a little bit easy. And because I'm using this for slicing, if you notice my avocado, it's nice and firm. It's not soft and mush, and you'll notice that by looking at the outside, it's not mushy. So it's just it's firm, but then it's still soft. So soft enough that it's ripe, but then it's not over soft or over ripe, because then that's going to give you more of a guacamole texture, which is not what I'm looking for here. I still want to be able to slice my avocado. So what I like to do is run my spoon in. You could also get your knife actually and just slice this through, and then now get your spoon. I'm going to go ahead and get my spoon, and the spoon just helps it easy to scoop out. So it's a tip. So just scoop that out, and all I've done is just run your spoon all the way around, and voila, it should be out. And you get a nice clean scoop here of the avocado skin. You could use this for plating actually if you wanted to. You don't have to. And then now turn your avocado, and then we're going to give this some nice slices. So you could slice it if you wanted to this way, or slice it lengthwise. I'm going to go this way because I don't want my slices to be too long. And then we're just going to give this nice thin slices, or as thin as possible. And then we're going to go ahead, and this is what you get, your nice looking avocado. See how simple that was? So we're going to go ahead now and plate our salad. Just want to clean up my hands here. So that's the easiest way for you to, if you have an avocado at home, this is the easiest way for you to peel it and slice it. So go ahead and plate your salad. Remember, I mentioned, if you're just tuning in, today we're making a Githeri cauliflower rice, which is a cold salad. You could eat it like this if you wanted to, add other things if you wanted to. You could do this with like a stew, or just take it to lunch as it is by itself. So that's looking good. And then we're going to get now my spoon here, and then I'm just going to layer some of the avocado around, just because I want to give my food some texture and color. I don't like to eat my food plain. So what I like to do is just the same way you've sliced, get your knife and just run it through. That's the easiest way for you to scoop your avocado, and then just place it around. So you get some nice, beautiful looking slices, and then just arrange those that are not as you like them. And there you have it. The avocado is looking nice and pretty. And then just clean your hands a little bit. And then we're going to wipe any extra avocado that might have spilled, like here. And there, your salad looks so pretty and fresh and vibrant. Remember, I did say we're all about eating with color here. So, and then remember, I put some of my mixed the vegetables aside, which are the capsicums and the tomatoes and onions. So I'm just going to add some more into one side, again just for the color, and just so you can see all the beautiful vibrant colors going on. So this is our Githeri cauliflower rice bowl. And then place this aside. You could also, if you wanted, actually scoop your salad into this. This is a nice tip. And then you could use this as your scoop, as your plate, if you wanted. And then top it off with a slice of avocado. There's just different ways that you can plate your food to make it look nice and pretty and different. And then we're going to get some herbs. and we're just going to give them a chop. And the herbs here is just to finish and complement your dish. You don't have to use them if you don't want to, but I'll suggest you do some fresh herbs. The herbs I'm using are parsley, so use some parsley, some dhania, some basil, whatever you have will work for you. So this is a nice takeaway meal. Like I said, it's a vegan, vegetarian meal. So if you have any friends who don't eat meat, or who are vegan, who don't eat any animal products as well, then this is a good alternative for them, because there's no animal product in this. Everything is fresh, plant-based, and they'll be really happy to eat this because I know they'll enjoy it. So I'm going to get a plate for my other one. As I was mentioning to you, you could plate it like this if you wanted to. You don't have to, it's an alternative. So all I'm going to do is just grab a bowl here and then just place it in there. So I'm going to give this a rinse. And this is just an alternative if you're having your salad in such a way that you just want to make it look different. So you can see that we're using here the avocado skin. We're using here the avocado skin is what we've used as our plating mechanism, so that it's a bit different from using the plate. So it's just a tip. And there we go. So hopefully you can see it from that angle. So that's it, guys. So today we made cauliflower githeri rice. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a very simple dish to make, very light, very fragrant. So I hope it's something that you'll be willing to try at home. Like I mentioned, everything we did here was very quick. Nothing took too much time other than the boiling of the maize and the beans, which hopefully you'll have done in advance so that it can take you a short time. And then the only other thing that you had to cook was the cauliflower in the microwave. Though I mentioned you don't have to, you could eat it raw if you wanted, if that's your thing, if you're into raw cauliflower. So this is a nice vegetarian, vegan meal. If you have friends who are coming over and they don't eat meat or any animal products, this is a nice alternative for them. So I hope you'll be willing to try this meal out because it is healthy, light, fun, and fresh. Most of all, fresh. Yes, so this has been Lunch Guide. I have been your host and chef, Sheena Amario. I've enjoyed making this meal. I hope you've enjoyed tuning in and watching me prepare the meal with you. So until then, I hope to catch you guys next time. Be sure to follow us on Brand Plus TV, and I'll see you then. Bye!